Good afternoon and welcome to BCP Council's first Facebook Live session since the last election. My name is Drew Mellor and I'm the leader of BCP Council. So please, by all means, put your questions in the chat bar and then we'll get to answering them as quickly as possible. We've got half an hour here now, and we'll be doing this every 2 weeks as we have done previously. We had a little break from this because of the elections. We're not allowed to run these sessions. Something called PERDA up to the election period, but we've now done that, so we're able to start again. Quick update in terms of the elections. We had two local elections for by-elections, and we had a police and crime commissioner election across the whole of Dorset. So the Conservatives gained one seat from the Lib Dems in the local elections, and the Christchurch Independents retained the seat they'd held before. So a slight change to the council. And Dorset elected its first Conservative police and crime commissioner in David Sidwick, so which was a gain from the Independents. So they're now done. What that means for the authority of the administration, BCP, is it's slightly more stable and secure, which I think is good news for everybody as we now really try and get down to work for the next 2 years up until 2023. What I'll do just briefly before I come into the questions is give a quick update on the COVID situation, which has gone really well locally. As everybody will know, on Monday the 17th we saw the COVID relaxations as planned, which means a lot more indoor meeting is effectively available. So indoors you're allowed to meet 6 people or 2 households, and outdoor you're allowed to meet up to 30 people. Hugs are allowed, indoor recreation's allowed, so things like pubs, hospitality, gyms, soft play, which is particularly important if you've got 2 young children like me. And the next set of restrictions should be coming to an end in June 21st. So we're still on track, largely to do with the vaccination effort in Dorset, which has been phenomenal. So I believe we're up to over nearly 750,000 doses across Dorset, which is great. A lot of people have now had their second dose, and we're seeing pretty much zero transmission between over 60s. People over 60s. So it just proves absolutely categorically that the vaccination is working. So just urge everybody to go and get the vaccine as and when called, get your second one as and when called. It makes such a difference, and it is our road out of here. Our COVID numbers are it's been hovering around sort of like the low double digits per 100,000. So we're at the last recorded numbers were 12 per 100,000, and that's down from what was 900 per 100,000 at our peak. So massively less in the population, which is great. And the main thing we've been trying to do is protect the NHS. And we've had over 600 people at any one time with COVID, and now we've got the last count was literally 2. So in a really good place. Okay, so apologies for the longer introduction than normal, but a few things to get through. Let me now go and have a look at some of the questions which you've been putting in the chat bar. Thank you. Okay. So there's a question about the road closures by the at Tattenham and effectively near the New Inn, which we'll get to. We can get those colleagues of mine will be able to put answers on some of those technical questions as we speak. Okay, yeah, so we had a question from Michael Hancock about the Bounce Back Challenge Fund applications. So this was, thank you, Michael. Okay, so something we've tried to do is to be a bit more creative in terms of how we can get some of the government money that they put for businesses and with some of our own money to actually really enable companies and people to bounce back better. So we put a pot in of money, quite significant amount of money, and asked for businesses to apply for those grants to see so they've got some inventive ideas that can help them really move forward as we come out of this pandemic. We want to be open for business. We massively do, and hopefully this should allow people to do that. Michael, the answer is, so last Friday, the applications were reviewed internally initially, and it will be within 2 weeks of that date. So we're expecting it. So we would expect at some point next week, all the successful Bounce Back Challenge Fund applications should be heard. Okay, Jamie Dunn's asked a question which I've answered before on Twitter, but I'll answer now, around the when the parking charges Upton Country Park be brought to a full council meeting for review discussion. A long question, which you can see now. So I was part of a council in Poole when we initially put parking charges at Upton. Been really well used effectively. It hasn't stopped a lot of visitation. We did have it. Upton Country Park was costing the council over £400,000 a year, which wasn't thought to be sustainable. So asking people to use to pay for parking was a really a fair way of making users of the park pay for it. So Jamie, as I've answered you before, I have no intention of looking into that. But thank you very much for the question. Okay. Emily Sutton's asked a question in terms of guidelines on accessibility. Yeah, Emily, we effectively what we're doing is we're bringing forward some work in this area, on housing, particularly on housing. We're bringing forward and committing to the standard accessibility standard on that. So that is something we actually are moving forward on, particularly on houses we're building ourselves. There are different levels you can actually go to with that, but there is work being done on that in a moment. And Emily, one of the things we're doing as a council is we've committed to a significant amount of regeneration. We need to build more houses and more homes, so that more young people in particular, affordability is addressed around. So we need to be building more housing, more homes. We're going to try and do a lot of that in urban areas. But Emily, you're absolutely right. It needs to be accessible, and we as a council and administration are really committed to that. So we are moving to that. Okay. Do we have so Nick Finnemore, do we have a strategy for getting those who are vaccine hesitant to get a jab? Nick, really worthwhile question, and something to stress on. I think it's absolutely clear, and we're seeing this from the data, in particular areas where there have been some outbreaks across the country, with the Indian variant in particular. It's largely people who haven't been vaccinated effectively, and a lot of those people would have been offered a vaccine, so they've chosen not to take it up. I think we just need to keep the messaging really consistent and clear in terms of how successful the rollout is. It's my belief there is a responsibility on us to all individually to step up to the plate and be vaccinated when it is our time. So we're trying to really get that messaging clear and consistent. And I'd urge all members of society to encourage their friends, family, to go and get vaccinated, and yourself get vaccinated. So we just need to. It's our way out of this, and we need to stick with the programme. And it's fantastic success in Dorset with the NHS rollout. Okay, let me find some other questions. Okay, so Steve Morris is asking a question about the ARG, the Additional Restrictions Grant Stream. When we paid it, you had enough since the beginning of April. Steve, okay, I'll pick that up, because my understanding was that should have been, if you were eligible for it, then it was effectively paid monthly. So, and although the applications are closed quite a while ago, but if you had been previously receiving it, you should be receiving it monthly, which I will follow up on, and we'll come back on your question outside of this meeting. Okay. Yeah, Paul Bennett's asked a question about, can you advise why contacting the council is so hard by phone, and also the website is hard to navigate? Yeah, Paul, this is something that isn't working well enough at the moment. We're needing to address. I was in a meeting last week with senior officers, talking about this, saying we need to get better at it. There are some issues in terms of bringing three councils together that have created an issue. We have lots of different numbers. We needed to bring three websites together and to come up with a new website effectively. It's not working well enough. COVID has exacerbated that. We've just started on a transformation project with our strategic implementation partners, which is a massive piece of work, effectively how we bring all the three councils together as one genuine unit, and that will be a way of addressing this. I've appointed a lead member for engagement, so we're going to be trying to, it was Jane Kelly, and we're going to be trying to move this forward quickly. Paul, what I'm trying to say is we're raising up the priority because we absolutely have to be a modern, accessible, both through digital but through the phone as and when required council, and we're not doing well enough on it at the moment. But literally last week we raised it up the priority order. Okay, let me find some more question. Caroline Greenham's asked a question about Bollestone Road, which I'm not sure of the answer on, but again, that's a technical question. We can get somebody to answer you on here, Caroline. Okay, Sophie Clegg, it's Walk to School Week. Do you agree the freedom for kids to walk safely to school is an important, making BCP a great place for kids to grow up? What measures do the council have planned? Yeah, so Sophie, yeah, very much so. Effectively, so one of the key things we're committed to is something called cleaner, greener, safer. As an agenda, and it's speaks for itself. We want to have better pride in our towns and places. We want it to be greener, and we want them to be safer. So that extends to in feeling safe as well as stuff like walking to school. More active travel is absolutely encouraged. We really need to make sure that we're delivering on that. It's very much part of what we want to try and do. It is Walk to School Week, which is great. So it's certainly something we're supporting, and our walking and cycling officer, particularly on that scheme, are supporting it this week. Okay, let me find some more questions. Okay, so Chris Fowler has asked if you have a limited business, is anyone you can speak to for 2 minutes to find out if there's any funding available to you. So Chris, what we can do is if you send me an email, which is drew.mellor@bcpcouncil.gov.uk, we have some really useful graphics that we can share, and our economic development team have put together with the help of the bids in terms of saying different sources of funding. So we by all means contact me, and we can share that and publicise that. We have got those online, and we might be able to. One of my colleagues might be able to put it underneath here. If not, but by all means email me, and I can get back to you. There's been a massive amount of support. Millions and millions of pounds that come to BCP businesses through this pandemic. Yeah, Thomas Anderson, is the council getting more staff working down on the beach for the summer? Are we expecting issues like last year? Yeah, Thomas, thanks for the question. Yes, is a very simple answer. So we put about an extra £4 million worth of investment into, primarily, we're calling it summer readiness. So it is effectively how we can be better organised and better prepared than we were for last summer. We've heard today again that there is less optimism from the government about whether we should be going on summer holidays. So it's going to mean staycations are even more popular, which should be a great thing for us, but we need to be organised to do, dealing with it. I think anybody who's on the beach at the moment or has been will notice it's actually looking better. We have loads more staff there. And we bigger bins. We've announced yesterday about a 2 park and ride scheme. So a park and ride scheme that will pick people up from Kings Park, and a park and ride scheme to take people from Paul Civic Centre down to Sandbank. So significant extra money. We're able to do that, one, because it's a priority of ours, of this administration. We want to make sure the place is cleaner, is more organised, is better resourced. But two, also the government has given us a significant amount of money to be able to step up those preparations after last year was difficult. Okay. So, right, okay, let's find some more questions. Sorry, I'm struggling with the feed. Yeah, so Chris Fowler, my email address, which I'm sure one of our colleagues will put down, is drew.mellor@bcpcouncil.gov.uk. So, yeah, Rob Hughes. Okay, so where's BCP at with the climate emergency declaration? It seems like there's been nothing done. Yeah, Rob, I think that's that's fair. A question to ask. So effectively, what we've done is a large consultation which we're working through and bringing back. We put an extra £240,000 into the budget for last year to enable more works on that. We're talking about coming up with something called a community municipal bond, which is potentially a couple of £1 million worth of investment in that area. I think what we've done since we came in on October the 1st, we've actually looked at what the council has in that, and it's not enough. Effectively, we don't have enough staff looking at it. We need to get more. So what I'm actively doing at the moment, working with our sustainability lead Mike Green, is to look to see how we can materially put more staff into that team so that we can work through some of the best options. We're committed to it as a council, absolutely categorically committed to climate and ecological emergency. I think there's been a lot of talking. We now need to see a lot of action. We didn't see a lot of action in the first 18 months of this council. Very little happened. We became the administration on October the 1st. And now we've realised we need to put significant more resource into it. So we very much we will be doing that. And if we don't see that coming through shortly, then that can be laid at my door, but it won't be, because we're going to make sure we move it forward. Yeah, and Janice Yates, thanks very much. Beach looks lovely. It does, and we should be really proud of it. So thank you. But there's a massive team involved in that, and £4 million worth of extra spend has gone into summer readiness. Okay. When is Upton Park letting people sit in the cafe again? That's interesting, Sean, because my understanding is that cafes should be able to be open now. If Upton Country Park isn't, then the cafe then I'll personally look into that, because we would expect it to. I regularly use Upton Country Park, and it's great when that cafe facility is open. So yeah, Sean, let me look into that. From Monday, all of the parks and cafes effectively should be open for indoor. I know you can use takeaway there, but I haven't seen it open yet. So, okay, right. So I'm not seeing loads more questions. So I'll go back through and see if some of them I've skipped over can answer. But by all means, do please ask questions here. So again, Tommy Pittaway, I've asked for a garage to rent and haven't heard anything from BCP. Is there a direct number I can contact? Yeah, fine, Tommy. What we'll be able to do is to put a number below this chat bar in terms of how you can contact us on that. And let's see what comes back. Any issues, please come back to me. Right, got some new comments coming now, which is great. So Westcliff Green, are the plans to upgrade the loos? From Janice Yates. Okay, Janice, I've just talked a little bit wider about loos and then more specifically answer your question. So effectively, what we've done, we've realised we need quite a large scale loo upgrade operation, across the conurbation. We're absolutely committed to, when this council was formed, the administration put £500,000 into opening some toilets that had been closed, which was absolutely the right thing to do. But what we now need to do is to make sure those get opened quicker. We have done a £300,000 investment, or we've signed off a £300,000 investment on the seafront toilets. So that is actually happening now as we speak. So you should start seeing better there. We've put, particularly in Pool Quay, we've said, look, there's under provision, and we need to make sure for this summer and ongoing there is proper provision there. So we're doing a wide scale loo upgrade project, and Westcliff Green will very much be in that. So okay, so have any plans to open the public toilet opening times in Boscombe and the seafront? There are no facilities at night. Okay, yeah. So Rob, the blunt answer to your question is I'm not aware that there are any plans to extend that, but we'll certainly look into it as part of the wider strategy that we're just announced in terms of toilet provision. Okay. So one of the things we wanted to ask today at some point was how these sessions could be more useful, really. So in terms of at the moment, it's myself as a leader, and this is a general session. We've run sessions on COVID before. We've run sessions on summer readiness. We'd really like to get ideas from members of the public to say, well, what actually would be useful topics for us to discuss? Who would be useful to get on here? It by all means doesn't have to be limited to me as the leader of the council. It could be a lot of any of the other councillors. It could be, for instance, our new Police and Crime Commissioner. But we're just really, it's a call out to get people to suggest how they would like us to use these sessions. So by all means, please make those suggestions. Okay, not seeing any other questions coming in now, so I'm not sure if there's an issue with the with the feed. But what I'll do is I'll go back to the top and see if there's any questions that we haven't answered. Emily Preston asked about the Tatland Road closure, so effectively the temporary measures around that. So Emily, I guess that's a question about all of the ETROs, obviously the Tatland one in particular. So most of them are coming up to the end of the consultation period now. So what we did as an administration when we came in is we asked local councillors to give their opinion on them. Because we feel that local councillors were excluded from the process initially, and they're often the best people to liaising with residents groups, communities effectively. What that did is meant we immediately cancelled a few of them, but we kept the rest of them in for their consultation period, which we're now getting to the end of. The one at the Tatland Road in particular is sort of relatively balanced. And the ward councillors, to my knowledge, are keen that it stays. So although no decisions have been made on that at the moment, what we're trying to do is listen to ward councillors alongside the consultation. So the decisions on those will be coming out, literally the next couple of weeks to a month. And we look forward to reviewing the results of the consultation. But primarily, what I would, if you feel strongly about any closure, whether it's positive or negative in your area, feel very free to contact your ward councillors and make your opinion known to them. Okay. So, is there any new questions? Fine. Yeah, so we've got some ideas coming in now for future sessions, which is great. Okay, Rob Hughes asked a question: when is the next opportunity for BCP to reassess their pension investment in fossil fuel? Rob, I think this is a really interesting question because it is directly reflective of our climate and ecological emergency. What we're part of the Dorset Pension Fund, which we have council representatives on. And they're constantly reviewing the ability of that pension fund in terms of where it should be moving its investment. And as a council, as per a climate and ecological emergency, we are stating that we expect a direction of travel in that area. It's not something that is economic or simple to just immediately move towards. But by taking a bit more of a climate aware investment strategy, that's very much something we want to do. So we're not there's work being done on it. It's regularly being evolved, and the Dorset Pension Fund are reviewing it, and we're playing an active part in that. Okay. So Janice Yates, what plans are in place to rehome the homeless currently staying in hotels? Yeah, so Janice, that's a really important question and something we spend quite a lot of time on. It's been a real success of the pandemic, if you can have one. The government announced something called Everyone In during the pandemic. So we wanted to make sure people were off the streets and everybody was offered accommodation, and not just offered accommodation, but really encouraged to go and take up that offer of accommodation. And that was really successful. So we've had hundreds of people in, and not just homeless, but not technically people sleeping on the streets necessarily, but people who are at risk of homelessness as well. So that's been really successful. They are currently in hotels, and that number is a lot of that number has been supported into permanent accommodation, which is fantastic. So the number, I think we had over 400 people in hotels, and over 200 of those have been supported into permanent accommodation. So that allowing these people to be housed has enabled us to be better at engaging with them in the way they want to, at the time they want to get them into homes, which is absolutely a commitment, because we fundamentally need to be more ambitious about the lives of people in our communities than sleeping on streets, and we need to be more ambitious about our place than allowing people to sleep on the streets as well. So it's a balance. One thing we're doing, we just had in the cabinet papers going forward, I believe next Wednesday, we've got a homeless health hub paper. So it's part of our homelessness strategy, where we're going to be, what BCP Council are proposing to do is to buy a building, St Stephen's Church Hall in the centre of Bournemouth, where we can then get our housing officers, but really importantly health officers, all co-located there, so really working together. The ambition in that place is then we'll be able to overlay that with some other services, even things, from like hairdressing, clothes washing, etc. But providing a way that people can really engage with, services, so we can support them. So I know your question, Janice, was more specifically around how we get people out of the hotels into accommodation. We are doing that. Over 200 people have been housed. But what we're trying to do is make it a real priority, because it fits really well into our pride agenda. Our town centres need to be, need to have less homeless people in them. But how can we do that? We'll help them, access services. And often homeless people will not access services in a traditional way. So we need to be ready for them as and when they are able to offer, access these services. So it's really, a positive thing we're doing with the Homeless Hub. It's a significant investment. So the government have invested, in everyone in. We're now investing in making sure we're one of the best places, in terms of that health partnership. And we think that's going to be really important. And if we can do that and prove it works, then we can go and do that in other locations. And I know, Paul, there's a homelessness issue in Paul as well. So hopefully we're leading the way on that. Okay, right, fine. Kevin Chapman's asked about public toilets on Pool Quay, Beta Park be cleaned again. Fine. So all of our toilets are being cleaned more regularly because of the COVID situation, effectively, and also particularly on the seafront, we've got more patrols, and people cleaning toilets. Kevin, I'll take that particular question about Pool Quay and Beta Park up, because that shouldn't be the case. Because we are effectively cleaning toilets a lot more frequently than we were. Just to recap, in terms of what I talked about earlier on, we're doing a widespread toilet review program, where we are investing in new toilet facilities which enable them to be cleaner, and more slightly for longer. The first stage of that was £300,000 on the seafront. We're particularly looking at Pool Quay, because there's effectively the public access toilets that we don't operate aren't open often enough. So I've asked for toilet provision on Pool Quay, both in short term to be stood up, but also long term, and make sure there's provision there. So it's a focus of ours, Kevin. Thank you for feeding in about that particular one not being clean. So I'll look into it, but we are doing more. And Janice, but back to your question about homelessness, I agree they need help. It is exactly about that support to train and get into work as well. Homelessness people, we really believe this health hub, it's got health focus to it, but if we can find some way of getting all agencies and all partner groups and charities effectively to work in one place, it's going to allow people to access services and pathways as well, because of long term it is about how we can link people up with employment, feeling self-worth, but you've got to start somewhere, and we can't do it effectively on our terms, how a council might like to be interacted with. We've got to take the council and health to these people and interact on their terms, because they need support, and we're committed to doing that. Fine, let me see if I can find any other questions. Please feel free to ask any new questions here. I'll just give a quick recap on some of the things we talked about. We started off with a COVID update, where we're really pleased to say that only 12 out of 100,000 people are currently in COVID, and we've delivered nearly 750,000 doses in vaccination, and really encourage people to effectively, engage with a vaccine program. We've talked about some of the restrictions that ease now. So in fact, that 6 people inside or 2 households, 30 people outdoors, and hospitality opening. And we've also asked for some comments about how you'd like these sessions to work going forward. Who would like to be, who would like to see here effectively. So by all means, please, carry on putting put it into Dawn's. Again, we're talking quite a lot about homelessness today, which is great. It's something we really need to move forward. And we were down at the last official count, to 16 people who were surveyed as being homeless in our town centres, which is down markedly from before. Dawn's just said 84 homeless people fed burgers, bags of food last night in Bournemouth. So it's great to see a lot of work going on there. What we really need to do is to enable people to get support they need to come off the streets. It's one thing, feeding people, which is charitable and caring, but we've got to challenge ourselves not to facilitate people sleeping on the streets, because it's not safe enough, it's not healthy enough, it's not ambitious enough for them. So why we're stepping up to the plate with our homelessness hub. And in fact, one of the first things we did as an administration was put a lead member in for homelessness, and we're seeing now as the fruits of that 6, 7, 8 months in, quite a lot of work, priorities are coming to fruition about that. Okay, fine. So we've got a minute or 2 left. So I'll scan through the questions from the top again, see if we've missed any. By all means, please feel free to ask any new questions. Okay, Debbie Grice. Okay, let's go with this one. You've asked a question now around brownfield sites for development to protect Greenbelt. So, and the question is, so why are BCP building so many houses around Wimbledon, Mellor and Bearwood on Greenbelt, having taken away the Greenbelt status? Okay, yeah, thanks, Debbie. Relevant for two reasons. So effectively, as part of Poole Borough Council and their local plan, there was some changes, limited changes to the Greenbelt. We need to build a significant number of homes across Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole to house people. We've got to, we need to, we had house prices have gone up, as announced today, 10% in the last 12 months, which is absolutely unsustainable. If we need to find a way of increasing affordability and getting our children, and increasing home ownership, we need to, build more houses. It's simple supply and demand. So we do need to build more houses. We're really committed to doing that as a council. We've come up with a big plan to get a world-class city region, and we put a significant amount of money into being able to deliver that. So what we're trying to do is build 15,000 houses in the next 5 years, and 13,000 jobs, and generate £3 billion of investment. And in doing that, deliver a world-class city region. What we're committed to doing is urban densification, effectively. So trying to make sure our town centres, it's more sustainable in terms of transport options as well. So a significant amount of drive towards that urban densification. But we also do need some family houses as well. So we are building on some brownfield sites. And we're trying to actively do that ourselves, because we've come from 3 councils to 1, so we're releasing a lot of sites. So we'll deliver housing as a priority through those. But there's and we're now consulting effectively on our local plan. So over the summer, we will be consulting on a BCP-wide local plan. What we believe we can do is by increasing densification in urban areas, in town centres like Poole and Bournemouth, enable us to protect the Greenbelt, protects certain areas. Christchurch is a good example, which demands and needs less housing. So we're trying to come up with a big strategy. Please engage with our local plan, our first BCP local plan, which will be consulted on this summer. We're really up for feedback on that. Okay, Debbie, I hope that answered your question. Thank you everybody who has contributed today. Really good to be back with you. We'll look through some of the suggestions and make a plan for the coming weeks. So this will be every 2 weeks. on a Wednesday, 2 weeks rolling forward, and we're delighted to put some people in front of you. I just leave everybody with saying, enjoy the summer, enjoy the fact we can start getting outside again, and actually from last Monday inside, hospitality, and go and get your vaccines. It's fundamental to what we're doing. So thank you everybody for your questions. Really appreciate your time, and we'll come back on the ones that we haven't been able to answer immediately. So thank you, and see you again soon. Cheers. Bye bye.